All right, hello and welcome to everyone joining this webinar. I hope that everybody is doing well. I hope that you've enjoyed the nice weather that we had over the last couple of weeks. Well, I know last week was pretty cold, but hopefully wherever you are, you've had a bit of nice weather and enjoyed some of that as well. Hope that everybody is doing well, and welcome to, well, this training slash webinar on using Microsoft Teams for remote education. So we're going to specifically be focusing on Teams for Education, which you'll only have access to if you work in, an education environment. You'll find that this differs a little bit from the business version of Teams. So for those of you that maybe work in the corporate world, we do run webinars for sort of regular business teams, as we would call it, which is slightly different to this one, because you'll see the big benefit of Teams for Education specifically is that you've got these options for things like assignments. So when you want to set an assignment to a group of students or to a classroom, you've got that incorporated. It's like a bespoke version of Teams, basically, that gives you all this sort of very specific functionality around having a classroom, and it's really aimed at teachers to use it. So me personally, I've got quite a lot of friends that are school teachers, and it's something that they've been using. Also professionally, working at Scala, being a training organization, over the last couple of months, you can imagine we've done quite a bit of training on Teams for Education. We worked with one school in particular, and we spent a couple of weeks helping them not only get a sort of basic understanding of how Teams for Education works, but then meeting with each department individually and looking at how we can incorporate features in Teams for Education and also the rest of Microsoft Office 365 so that they can best create content to share and teach their students. So after this session, because this is just going to be a sort of very sort of not basic, but we're scratching the surface here of Teams for Education, let's say. So over the next sort of 45 minutes or so, we're just going to look at one simple approach to using Teams for Education, but there's lots more of it available. And if it is something that you're interested in, do get in touch with us. Like I said, we do bespoke training with any school or any education center. And we provide a lot of one-on-one training. We also do training with groups and departments, and we look at how we can use different methodologies and different features within Office 365 to literally get you up and running in the best possible way when using this application. So anyway, I guess a bit about myself. So my name is Dan. I can see I've got the lockdown beard and hair. I'm a Office 365 specialist trainer. So over the last couple of years, well, longer than that, I think it's about 8 or 9 years now that even 10 even, that I've been doing training. So most of the training that we do is sort of business, for businesses and organizations, big and small. But over the last year or so, and especially during lockdown and with schools in particular, having to revolutionize how they teach, taking everything digital and online. We've been doing, like I said, quite a bit of training with schools and in particular working with Teams for Education. Pretty strange times, I guess, for everyone. And, I feel for teachers quite a lot because, you do a lot of classroom training and then now a lot of that has become digital. At the same time, I know that quite a lot of students have gone back to school and things are a little bit different, but you never know that there might be another lockdown around the corner, especially if you believe what you read in the news. So it could be that we're all going to be using Teams for Education a little bit more and maybe for a while longer. So as far as this webinar goes, it is being recorded. So you have all been put into listen only mode. So you can just hear what I'm saying basically over the next sort of 45 minutes or so. We record the session so that we can send everyone a link to the recording so you can watch it after this if you would like. You can ask questions at any time, and I will answer those questions at the end of the session. So within GoToMeeting, which we're all using at the moment, or GoToWebinar, I think we're on today, there's a questions area on the right-hand side, and there is also a chat, but please could you put your questions into the questions area, simply because it gives me a nice table to look at after this session with a list of questions, and I can then just go through them. If people put questions into the chat, then amongst everything else that will go into the chat, it can be a bit tricky to find the questions. So any questions you have, please put into the questions area. I will do my best to answer them after the session. It tends to be on these webinars that people ask questions that are maybe specific to their school and their school's network. You know, naturally, I'm not going to know what the answer to those questions are. So, you know, all I'm saying in advance is for some of your questions, I may have to redirect you to your IT departments, but that's simply because, you know, if you can imagine, almost any organization, any school, anywhere really, they always have their own sort of customized version of something and their own rule set as well. So today I'm going to be showing you Teams for Education with everything unlocked in a sense. So there's no restrictions because, you know, I don't actually, you know, I'm not a school teacher and I don't have any real students in my Teams for Education environment. You know, we're using ours purely for training. So we do have every feature available. If one of the features that I show you isn't available on your Teams, very, very likely it's just been disabled by your school. And again, with all the schools that we've worked with, some disable some things, some disable others. It all depends on, you know, their school, their students, their rules. Everything can be a little bit different. So again, anything that you're unsure of why you may or may not have it, probably best to have a word with your IT departments, as I'd imagine it's just sort of something bespoke to your environment. I will ask you all a poll in a moment, so I'll launch a poll on the screen. Please do contribute to the poll. Just gives me a nice idea of everyone that we've got in the room today. And also, we will send you an email over the next few days or so. And where today is Friday, it might be something that you get on Monday. But everyone who attends, we send them an email that contains not only a link to watch the video of this session again, but also we want to find out a bit more about you. So, you know, what you thought about the session, maybe if you feel that further training is something that could benefit you and your school. And we're also thinking about doing a Skills for Schools event at some point in the near future. So taking this a step further, you know, Teams for Education is just, you know, basically like your digital hub for Office 365. But we do more training than just Office 365. You know, it just so happens that Office 365 is incredibly popular at the moment. But we offer lots and lots and lots of technology, non-technology, all sorts of training that we've been doing for many, 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 many years. So we're also we might potentially have an event where we can help people identify skill gaps maybe in their environment. So it could be that maybe not everyone is very technology fluent, and you'll find that just learning how to operate Teams for Education is half the battle, because a lot of these computer systems, they have the same sort of logical approach to them. And it may be that you might want some training in other areas of technology, or even things that aren't necessarily technology. So keep your eyes peeled in the same way that you found this webinar. We'll have more stuff available in the near future. And it's also always good to know what you thought of the sessions so that we can improve these going forward as well. So what we're actually going to look at today is going to have a look at how to access and navigate Microsoft Teams. I'm going to show you two Teams for Education environments. So I'm going to show you one where I'm a teacher using the full desktop application. And then I've also got my fictional student logged in a web browser. So, you know, when we assign an assignment as a teacher, we can see how that reaches the students, how they can submit something, and so on. So you'll get to see it from both perspectives. You'll find that you can open Teams in a web browser. You can download the full application. I would say wherever possible, or it's always worth downloading the full application. And if you are going to use a web browser, then Microsoft Edge and also Google Chrome tend to work really well. Other web browsers won't have all of the functionality. So you can see, I'm a Firefox user. I like Firefox, but the only problem with Firefox when it comes to Teams is that I can't have meetings through Firefox on Teams. I can through Google Chrome. I can through Internet Explorer or Edge, as it's now called. But not necessarily with Firefox. So some browsers are a little bit more Teams friendly than others, but the good thing is you can basically access Teams everywhere, and you'll find that the web browser versions offer sort of 99% of the same functionality as the full desktop app. We'll also have a look at how to create a classroom. Again, this may be something that might have already been set up by your IT department, but you may have control to set these up yourselves. We'll have a look at how the conversation feed works, so posts and the sort of things you can post, how you can tag messages, how you can attach content directly into your classroom posts as well. We'll have a look at the class notebook. So to give you a bit of an overview of the class notebook, which is a bespoke version of OneNote that's been created in Teams for Education. OneNote is actually a really, really cool application. In the business world, people tend to use OneNote as sort of, you can use it on a personal level, and you can also use it on a more professional level, but think of it as like a sort of digital scrapbook. So normally, if you're anything like me and you carry a little notebook around and you write things in your notebook, not quite like a diary, but more so just things that you've learned, maybe information from meetings and just stuff that you might go back to and find useful. Nowadays we consume everything digitally, don't we? We do everything on the internet or on a digital device. So OneNote is a kind of digital notebook in a sense, but it's really cool. They've got a bespoke version of it for classrooms. It can do a lot more than what I will show you today. Today again, I'm just going to scratch the surface of all of these things. But you can do quite a lot with the class notebook. It's really, really good, and it comes from the OneNote application. We'll have a look at how to set up assignments. One of the best features of Teams for Education is the dedicated assignment area. Not only can you set assignments and then send them to students, and students get notified and so on, but it's also a great place to keep track of work that's been submitted and graded. So once you have graded an assignment, it holds on to all of that information. You get a really nice table of all of those students' grades. You can open the previous work that they've submitted. Again, I'm just using a dummy training environment here, so my Teams for Education might look a bit empty, especially compared to a real one used by a real school, where you will have a very busy environment and the tables will be massive and you'll have lots of grades and links within there. Naturally, mine will look a little bit smaller, but yeah, you'll see it's a really, really fantastic feature. So we'll look at one approach to setting assignments. We'll have a look at working with meetings. Meetings, again, no different to meetings in Zoom or meetings in GoToMeeting even. They're all very similar, so we'll have a look at how it works within Teams for Education and the features that you have within there. And we'll also have a look at how to upload content. So for every classroom that you create, you'll find that you've got a dedicated files section, which technically will live on your SharePoint, but you'll find that that's where you can upload files that you can give students access to, things that they may want to download. And in particular, that's where a lot of teachers have been sharing presentations maybe. So, for teachers that have been working remotely, creating content, putting it into a PowerPoint presentation so that your student can download and watch it at their own pace is brilliant. So that's really good too. And then, like I was saying, at the end of the session, I'll do my best to field any questions that I can possibly answer. So what we're going to do before we begin is just to get a rough idea of what your current level of Teams for Education is. So don't know how much you've been using it. I'd imagine over the last few months, you've probably been forced in a way to use it quite a lot because of being in lockdown, right? Everything's very unpredictable at the moment. But you may have used it a bit before that. I don't know. So I'm just going to launch a poll on the screen. Please just take a moment. I'm just going to leave this up for about 30 seconds. So please just select which one best sort of suits your knowledge, your current level of knowledge, would you say, on Teams for Education. So it's going to leave it up for another couple of seconds. You can see we've only got about 60% of people have voted. So for those of you that haven't, please just click onto something now. I can see that we've got a really good spread, actually. So again, I'm not really surprised here, but over the last few months that we've been running these webinars, I can see I've got a lot more people have selected things like good and average, whereas before that we had a lot of little knowledge or never really used it before. All right, so I'm going to close this poll and I'm just going to share the poll results. So you can see that we've got, most people would say that they've got sort of a mid-level knowledge in Teams for Education. I'd imagine that it's something that you've been using quite a lot of, and therefore you figured out probably how to use a lot of the features within it, which is great. But regardless of your level of knowledge, hopefully everyone can find something useful from this webinar. Okay, so just before we begin, I mean, very quickly, what we would consider the benefits of Teams and Teams for Education, so just Teams in general. It's a great place to centralize all your content. So again, in the business world, very similar to the education world, you'll notice that, a classroom, or a team as it's called in the business environment, you've got a collection of people. We can put files in there. We can create links to websites. We can attach links to other locations entirely. We can set assignments. We can share work. It's just a great place to centralize all of that. Think about if there was no Teams for Education. How would you be distributing all of this content? It would probably be a long series of emails to try and reach people. It would be getting external things like Zoom, setting up meetings in there and trying to work through things that way. So Teams is a great place to have everything in one. It allows for simple communication with students and staff. So you can also create staff teams. You can also start a conversation or a one-on-one video chat or messaging chat with a student. Again, depending on the school, some schools have this feature switched on, some have it switched off. But again, if you need to meet with a student, you can do that via Teams for Education. You can also, have a classroom session. So if you've got like 20 students in the classroom, you can very easily set up a meeting with them and teach the session that you're going to want to teach. It stores assignments and marks. So like I was saying earlier, going forward, it's a great, it gradually collects all the information that you feed into it. So if you ever need to go back to any piece of work that a student has submitted or any of their grades, you can find that very, very simply. It's very easy to use, as hopefully many of you have discovered over the last few months. It's very intuitive. You'll see that you've got big purple buttons that are everywhere all over the screen that let you know what's going to happen next when you click on them. And also, Windows has, made itself one of the biggest brands on the planet by making software that's easy for people to use. And also, it's a seamless transition to a digital platform. So, even things like the video chatting, messaging people, I mean, if you think about it, it's not really too different from something like WhatsApp. It's taking something familiar and just sort of evolving it on a more professional, bigger scale in a sense. So, in general, this is a very common theme throughout all of technology. you'll find that there are lots of apps and things that do very similar things. It's just gradually this evolution, and it takes things that you know and looks to evolve them a little bit. The only sort of con or things that people would say against Teams and Office 365 is that it feels like lots of similar Microsoft tools do the same thing. And I would say that in some respects, that can be kind of true, but another way to think of it is all these tools complement each other. Teams is just a hub, and you're always incorporating things from other applications. So, if you're using the classroom notebook, that's OneNote. If you're setting assignments as Word documents, that's Microsoft Word. If you're typing things into a meeting, or you're having a video chat, these are all, yes, there are also dedicated applications for these things, but Microsoft Office has now evolved into Office 365, which is just like a toolbox of lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of applications that all complement each other to help you do different things. So again, talking about me delivering training with lots of schools and lots of individual departments within those schools, depending on the nature of your subject, the way that you use Teams for Education is going to be very different. If you can imagine, for something like maybe physical education, you might need students to perhaps record themselves doing an activity. So there might be lots of media in those particular classes. Whereas if you're doing a course, a more written subject, something like history perhaps, there's going to be a lot more written assignments. If you're doing something where your approach might involve lots of little quizzes, so lots of the maths and science, they were really keen on setting lots of quizzes to their students, then they're going to be using a lot of Microsoft Forms. So it's all about incorporating different tools from different areas to teach in the most effective way possible. All right, so what I'm going to do is going to begin this webinar, so as in looking at Teams. So like I was saying, I've got the Teams on 2 levels. So I've got this one, which is me logged in as a teacher, and this is going to be the teacher environment. This is the full desktop application that we can download onto our computer. Similarly, you could also go to office.com and log in with your credentials and access it via a web browser. So separately over here in the Edge web browser, I've logged into office.com as the fictional student called Adam Student, or A Student, if you like. So this fictional student has been a part of all of my classes over the last couple of months that I've been delivering this webinar. So again, there's only one student. Realistically, you'd have a lot more. But, if I go over to Teams, I can see that this student is part of lots and lots and lots of different classrooms. I would say, do try to use the desktop application where possible, and I would probably encourage that with students as well. If they do have access to a laptop or a computer, then to use the desktop application. If they can't, if they can get onto a web browser, that's the next best thing. You do also have a phone app available that you can download, but as I'm sure all of you know, phone apps are very watered down versions. You're not going to have the full set of functionality that you can see here on a computer on your phone. So I don't know if anyone here has tried using Teams on their phone. It's great for attending meetings. It's great for the little conversation area so you can speak to people. But in terms of, uploading assignments and operating the class notebook, I wouldn't recommend doing that sort of thing on your phone. So if you can imagine, being a trainer, I travel quite a lot. The Teams app on the phone is fantastic for me, because if I need to attend maybe a business meeting while I'm on a train going somewhere, then I can just do it via my phone. I don't have to get my laptop out, try and connect it to Wi-Fi, and I can just attend meetings via the phone. So apps are good, but wherever possible, desktop and online is much, much, much better. Anyway, so this is what Teams for Education would look like, and the students one is a little bit more filled up than the teacher one. So you can see that lots and lots and lots of different classrooms that this student is a part of. If I open any one of these, I don't know, let's take this one for example, you can see that we've got a post section at the very top. So the way that they divide these classrooms, as you can see on the left hand side, you've also got channels as well. One thing to bear in mind is that the general channel is going to be standard for every single class that you create, and general is the one where you will have all of the tabs at the very top. So things like posts that everyone who's a part of this classroom will be able to see, a files section where you can upload content, a class notebook. So the class notebook works in 3 levels. We've got one part of the class notebook is for everyone to be able to edit and access. And again, we'll look at this in a bit more detail shortly, but we've got a collaboration space. Everyone will have access to that. So that might be where you might want every student to be able to post something. We've got a content library. So this is where you can add read-only materials. So again, if I'm thinking of when I studied history in school, there was so much that we had to read. If I was a history teacher and I want students to be able to access these extracts, they can't change them, but they can read them, then we would put them into the content library. And then every student has their own private notebook as well. However, the teacher can access their private notebook. So from a teacher's perspective, the teacher would see every student's individual notebook in a list over here. So if you had 30 students in your class, you would have 30 notebooks. And that's where you can, do sort of one-on-one feedback with that student, perhaps. Maybe if you set assignments via the class notebook, that's where you can access them. Like I was saying earlier, there's a lot that we can do with the class notebook. Anyway, at the very top, we've also got assignments for those classes. So the student will be able to see assignments that they've got assigned to them and ones that they've completed. The teacher will have a slightly different view. So if I go as the teacher into the assignments section at the very top, then I can see that the teacher here has a list of things that have currently been assigned. And when the teacher opens an assignment, it shows you what the current status is for each of the students. Again, we've only got one student. In the real world, this list would be much longer. And I could see, whether or not that student has turned a piece of work in. If they haven't, then, I could message them and say, oh, sorry, Adam, I haven't received that piece of work yet. And there'll also be a section for grades at the very top, which at the moment is probably going to be empty for me because I'm using a new training account today. So I can see that Adam has only had the one assignment, but hasn't submitted anything yet. So this is currently empty. But anyway, this would gradually become much longer as there's more assignments, and the list of students would be much longer as well. So you end up with this nice table of grades for those students. Now, what you can also do in Teams for Education, and again, if I just go back to one of the other classrooms for a moment, you can also create existing additional links at the very top within classrooms. So things like links to websites, perhaps. So I can create direct links to websites. It could be that I need students to go to a particular website. So here I've incorporated the Escala website, for example. Pretty cool. And they could just use that as if they're on a web browser. Also, you can upload documents that you want them to be able to read as well. So I could make a document accessible at the very top that students could now open and read through as well. Again, depending, you may want to put that into the class notebook. You may just want to put an important document as a part of that class so that everyone can see it immediately. It's going to be totally down to you. So there's quite a lot of things that we can do in a classroom. With the additional channels that you can create within a classroom, the channels have slightly less functionality. So you can post things into a channel. You can also add files into a channel. You can make channels private too. So if they're private, they're invite only. If you don't make a channel private, then everyone who's a member of that classroom will automatically have access to all the channels within it. And you've also got a notes section as well, where you can also add a few notes. But you'll notice that there's no assignments within the individual channels. Assignments are always going to be in the general section. Now, if I go across to being the teacher again, here we go. Just a few other sections of Teams very quickly. So you'll have an activity feed. The activity feed, very similar to, something like Facebook, where you open it up and you click onto activity and it shows you everything that's been going on relating to you and things that you're a member of. From a student's perspective, this is where they would see they'll get notified that they've got an assignment set. So you can see here it's, let this student know that I added him to this computer science classroom earlier, and I also set an assignment as well. So they'll get those notifications. So if students are saying to you, I'm not getting notifications about assignments, it means that they're not looking onto the posts and they're not checking their activity feed. But anyway, activity will just give you information about things going on in your environment and your teams. You've also got a chat section. This is very, very similar to WhatsApp. So within here, I could search for a student. I could then start a private conversation with them. And if I do start a private conversation, I've then got the option to video call as well, audio call, and you can also share files too. Teams is going to be where I find all my classrooms. Assignments is a dedicated sort of general assignment space. So you can find assignments within the classrooms themselves, or you can just go to your assignment section. It's two windows to the same thing, really. We've got a calendar, which at the moment is empty. Your calendar is synchronized with Outlook. So especially between staff members, it's a great way to see what teachers have, what availability, and when you might want to schedule things. And you can notice on the top right corner, we could schedule meetings within the calendar. We've got a calls section, which just lets you make audio calls. Again, you could go into the chat and you could start a text conversation and then turn it into an audio conversation. Very similar to WhatsApp. I can be messaging my friend and then I click on the phone icon at the top and it starts an audio call with them, or a video call if necessary. And you've also got a dedicated files section, and the files section will just list all the files that you've uploaded or all the files that you've opened in all of the different classes. So again, instead of me going into a team, into a classroom, and then going up to files or assignments, I could go to assignments on the left or files on the left and get a general overview of all of them within all the teams that I'm a member of. And one other thing not to be overlooked is in the top right corner, you've got your profile icon. So I can see I've got CL. And when I click into here, then just a few things that you might want to do. You can increase the zoom level. So if you find that Teams is font is maybe a bit too small or a bit too big, you can adjust that within here. You can also bring up a list of all the keyboard shortcuts. So if you want to become an absolute whiz on the keyboard, it gives you a list of all of them. And, you can learn the ones that work for you. And also within here, you've got the option to go into settings. Settings, you can just adjust little things like, how it looks, and you can have a dark background instead of the light background, which looks pretty cool. But anyway, one thing that I would highly recommend is just set up your devices. So this is a one-time thing. You can see, especially if you've got, more than one headset plugged into your computer, or if you're using a laptop, normally laptops will default to the microphone and speakers. So it's good to just double check that within here, make a test call, and find out how that works. If I did want to make a new classroom, I'm just simply going to go into Teams, and in the top right corner, I've got the option to join or create a team. So I'm going to create a new classroom. You can create more than just a classroom. So classroom is going to be the one you probably use the most of. We've then got professional learning community, which is going to be like a classroom, but it's a team just for students. Well, just for teachers actually. So this would just be between you and other teachers. You've then got a staff group. So this might be with other staff members that aren't teachers but do work in for the school as well. So this could be things like IT departments. You know, maybe your IT administrators. They're not necessarily teaching, but they are keeping all your IT working, maintenance, all these sorts of things. This is where you could create a group for that. And then you've also got other, which is just a more sort of open group. And it recommends using this for things like, you know, study groups, after school activities. So any sort of maybe extracurricular stuff you might want to create individual teams for here. Anyway, going to create a classroom. I'm going to give the classroom a name. So I'm going to call this one, I don't know, let's go for A level computer technology, perhaps. You can add a description, but we're going to click on to next. You can add students and teachers, but you can add these at any point. So if I don't add them all now, it's no big deal. I can always go into a classroom as a teacher and add additional students. Obviously, the students won't be able to add other students into classes, but I'm just going to add our Adam student, and I'm just going to click close. If I had more, I could add more, but don't have any more students today. So I can see that it creates that classroom on the very left-hand side. I've got the general channel by default. If I wanted to add another channel, I simply click onto the three dots next to the name of this classroom. And you can see that within here, I can add channel. I can also add members as well. So again, if I needed that window to add more students or teachers to this class, can do that very simply. Just bring that back over here. If I choose to add another channel, you'll see that while you're creating the channel, so maybe this is going to be, what should we call this? I don't know, maybe we're gonna have, let's have gaming club. And again, we could have a description, and you can also choose whether or not to make the channel private. Remember, if it's a standard channel, everyone who's a part of this class will have access to it by default. If you only want to invite specific people to it, then you just want to set it up as a private channel. Anyway, going to click on to add, and it's then going to create that additional channel on the left-hand side. If I'm on a channel and I click on the three dots on the very right-hand side, you can choose to turn off channel notifications. So, you know, if you find yourself, you know, teaching or being a member of loads and loads and loads and loads of different classrooms. So, you know, again, for example, what we discovered was that teachers within the same departments will make each other members of other teachers' classrooms. You know, I may own, maybe I'm only teaching year 10, year 11 and A-level computer technology. I'm not necessarily teaching year 7. So I might want to manage channel notifications for that. Anyway, if I'm within this general channel, if I want to start posting, I can simply hit the start button at the very bottom, and then I could start posting. So I could, you know, say something like hello and welcome to this class, and I could post that there. You'll notice it's very social media-esque in the sense that you can reply to something. So instead of having lots and lots and lots and lots of individual posts, you can reply to a post. So I could say, oh, you know, hello, and then I could reply to that. I could start a new conversation entirely. So I click onto new conversation at the bottom, and this might be, you know, please explore reading materials. And that becomes its own little conversation within this window. Similarly, if I go into maybe new conversation, when I'm typing within the box over here, you'll notice that you have all these extra little buttons along the bottom row. So the very first one will give me more font formatting options for my post, but you'll also notice within here that instead of doing new conversation, you can also do an announcement. So my announcement might be something like, oh, you know, gaming club registration now open. I can also, you know, jazz that up a little bit. So maybe I want to make it a different color, or maybe even add a picture in the background as well. So I could choose an illustration and go with, I don't know, let's go for this one because it is an announcement. Can add some information underneath. So I might say, you know, registration open, and then underneath I might say, everyone interested, check out the intranet, or whatever my announcement might be. You've also got the option post in multiple channels. So instead of just posting in the general channel, I might also want to post this into some other channels as well. So maybe I'm also going to post it into the other classroom that I teach. So the other computer science classes, and also maybe the gaming club class. So now this is going to be posted in multiple channels. I then send that post. If I go into my other teams, can see that post has been posted there as well. So you can make announcements directly into multiple areas at once. If I go back to the window at the very bottom, you can also @mention people. So if I wanted to @mention a student, so if I say I'm going to @mention Adam, and I might say, oh, there's an option down here as well, praise. So let's go with praise maybe. So we're going to choose praise, and we're going to say that Adam's been a real team player. So we're going to add Adam. Personalized note, well done on recent team assignment. Maybe they had to work all together. Who knows? And then we can send that, which is pretty cool. Now that Adam's been mentioned in that post, if we go back to Adam's, Adam's teams area, sorry, because I'm starting to jumble my words now. I can see that within activity, it lets him know that Carl has mentioned him, and there we go, and it brings up that post for him, which is pretty cool. If you want to get someone's attention, you @mention them. Very similar to, you know, again, WhatsApp, which I'm sure everybody has used. Then you can @mention people within WhatsApp too. So a good way to get their direct attention. You'll also see along the bottom that you can also attach files directly into here. So if I was to click onto the attachment, I could upload something from my computer, from OneDrive. I'm just going to click on upload from computer. Maybe I'm going to upload a presentation. If I want all the students to get a notification, I could do @ and then I could start typing the name of the class. So I've got A-level computer technology, and I'm going to say, please, please open presentation, and I could post that. By me posting it within here, it also gets uploaded into the files section at the top as well. Within the files section, you could click on upload and upload things into here. It doesn't have to be through posts. But if you can imagine doing it through posts, you're getting their attention. So you're letting them know, oh, look, this has been uploaded. You should check this out. I can also do things like, you know, I've got emojis at the very bottom. So I'm sure everyone's familiar with emojis. You've also got GIFs as well. So you can send, you know, Homer Simpson screaming. We could pop that in there as well. You can also schedule meetings directly, or you can start a meeting directly. So if I did want to start a meeting immediately with everyone, I could simply click onto this Meet Now button. It's going to start a new meeting. So this might be, I don't know, A-level computer tech surprise quiz. I don't know if teachers do surprise quizzes anymore, but I remember when I was in year 8 maths, very, very, very long time ago, teacher was super fond of doing surprise quizzes, but it was really good because, you know, it would help you recap things that you'd done a week or 2 weeks before. And you know, being a student, you're doing like 5 lessons a day, aren't you? So good way to kind of get you thinking about stuff. Anyway, I'm just going to pop myself on mute on this one. So, you know, fingers crossed you should all be all right. So you can still, as in you can still hear me. So when I then choose to start that meeting, you can see that because this is an impromptu meeting, on the right-hand side, I can add students, or I can click request for them to join, and they could join. Alternatively, I could type a name and find students this way. I can also copy the meeting info, but you'll also notice that this is going to be in the it's in the post of our channel as well, so they can see, you know, join this surprise quiz. If we go back to the meeting, as in the meeting controls that you have, you can show and hide participants. You can show conversation area on the right-hand side. So you can type things within the meeting itself. You can also click to raise your hand. So if you choose to raise your hand, then it lets you know within the participants area that somebody has raised their hand. Great way to get the teacher's attention, or vice versa. You can also click on some more actions, and you've got things like live captions. Really, really useful. You can also record your meetings. You can also turn video off. And you can also share content. So when I click onto the share content options, I can share things that are open on my screen. Or if you've got access to other applications, you can also open those too. If I choose to record the meeting, then it's going to create a recording of that meeting as well. So let's say now, I mean, I know it's only been recording for a couple of seconds, but imagine we had this meeting and we leave it. You can see now it's letting me know that it's saving a recording of this meeting. It's very, very handy because, again, imagine a student has missed a meeting and you've recorded it, and maybe that meeting was, you know, a class on something really important. Well, if they can't make it for, you know, whatever reason, then they'll always have the recording that they can come back to. You know, unfortunately, back in the day, if you were off sick, you know, unless somebody gave you their notes from the class, or, you know, you had maybe a very good teacher that did get in touch with you and send you something, then unfortunately you just miss a lot of the information on that particular session. So where this creates a nice digital recording for it, it's something that they would be able to access a little bit later on. Can also schedule meetings. So I could also go into the calendar and you could create scheduled meetings. You have also got live events. We're not going to look at live events today. If you want more information about live events, do check it out. It's a relatively new feature in Teams. Live events are similar to what we're doing now, as in this webinar, but it's to make it a little bit more interactive as well. But anyway, pretty cool feature. Do check that out. Anyway, if I go into schedule a meeting, it's very similar to scheduling something within your Outlook calendar. So maybe it might be to be a homework discussion. I could then add the channel. So I could say, right, A level. Maybe it's going to be, well, let's look for computer, perhaps. No, oh, that's for individual people. Sorry, so we've got channel down here. My mistake. So if I choose computer science, or actually let's do A-level computer tech, we'll invite everyone this way. This is where we can invite individual people. Sorry, just so used to using this feature. But anyway, I could then schedule a time. So maybe it's going to take place a little bit later today. Might be an hour class. And you could also type up additional information within here as well. You have also got scheduling assistant. Scheduling assistant is quite useful because it will let you know what time people have available in their calendars. But I'd imagine that This is going to be more handy between staff because staff are likely to set up meetings with other staff members. I would guess that with students, mostly their day is quite organized. So they know that they've got, history, then geography, then maths, then IT, then RE, or whatever it might be. So that being said, I doubt students are going to fill up their own calendars with their own meetings for things like that. But anyway, I could then send that meeting. It creates that meeting within here. And then when the time comes, we could simply click and join this meeting. And there would be a nice link within here for everyone to click on and join. Now, just going back to the team, just one or two more things about posts. So you can see that with posts, you can like them. So you get little Facebook style options to like things. You can delete your own posts. So you can edit and delete your own posts. You can also save a message. So by clicking on the three dots, so on the message itself, if I choose to save a message, you can see it notifies me that it's saved at the very top. So at any point, if I want to view messages I've saved, I click into the little arrow at the very top where I've got my profile, and I click onto saved, and it takes me to that particular post, highlights it, and gives me a list of them on the left-hand side. In terms of working with Class Notebook, so if I go up into the Class Notebook and I choose to set that up, you can create one from existing notebook content. So if you're maybe teaching, year 7 next year, as well as this year, you may want to reuse a lot of the materials that you uploaded. It gives you that brief overview that the collab space, both the student and the teacher can edit. The content library, only the teacher and student can view. Teacher only section is private notebook for the teacher. And then student notebook, private for the student, but you as the teacher can access and edit it. You can create the little sections within the notebook, so we could add or remove sections if we didn't want them. And when we click on to create, it takes a moment and it's going to build that notebook for us. And normally it's a little bit quicker than this, but there we go. So once it's created that notebook, you can see that I've got my own toolbar of commands within here. I can expand the little arrow and I can access all of those sections. So if I wanted to upload something into the content library, perhaps, I could open the content library, right click, add new section. So my new section might be reading materials for October. Then this page over here might be CPU extract. And then underneath I could insert a file if I wanted to. Or alternatively, I could copy and paste in some text. So I'm just going to use a little trainer trick here to generate some random text. There we go. And there we go. And then the students could access and read this information. Pretty cool, just by going into their class notebook. And you can see, you can also record audio within here as well, which is pretty cool. And you get all sorts of mathematical options as well. If I want to set an assignment, assignments are really cool because you can also create assignments to set later. So if you wanted to take a day to maybe upload all of your assignments as drafts, it's only once you set the assignment that it becomes, a live assignment for other students to see. But anyway, if I click on something like Get Started, I'm going to create a new assignment. I'm going to give this assignment a title. So this might be, I don't know, we'll call it Computer Storage Assignment. I can add instructions. So my instructions are going to be, please download and use attached Word document. Again, you're going to want to be more descriptive with these things in the real world, but I'm just, typing one up. I can add resources, so I'm going to add this Word document. Let me move this over here. So I'm just going to go into upload from this device, and I've got one I prepared earlier. So I'll upload this document and hit done. Point system. So with the point system, you can add a rubric. So you can use existing rubrics. So once you've started creating them, you'll have lists of them within here, but I'm just going to create a new one. So this one is going to be assignment grading. I'm going to say that there is a point system. So if they do an excellent piece of work, we'll give them 25. Good, we'll give them 20. Fair, we'll give them 10. We could add another column as well if we really wanted to. And we'll say that if it's poor, we'll give them 5. So here I could say, you know, this is the criteria to achieve these grades. And then here I could say, you know, top quality work, all points clearly expressed. Here, you know, great attempt, needs to explore points further. Here we might have not enough key points, need to develop further. And here we might just have a poor attempt, no critical thinking or analysis. I don't know, these are just coming off the top of my head, by the way, so I don't know what you might actually say to students. But anyway, so I can see that we've got this rubric that we've now created. There is more flexibility to make this bigger, but again, we're not going to explore that today. So I'm going to attach this. I'm going to say the maximum points is what, 25? Oh, so my 2 and 5 are the wrong way around, which is a bit odd. There we go. Again, it's assigned to a classroom, but you could assign it to students directly, and we can set a due date. So I'm going to say this is due next week. You can set a time. If at the moment it says late hand-ins are allowed, so basically the student can hand it in after the due date, and it will let me know that they handed it in a day late, 2 days late, or whatever it might be. If you choose to set a close date, so instead of having a due date, maybe you say no, close date, then unfortunately after the close date, they will not be able to submit that assignment. So again, this is going to be totally down to you. Anyway, if I just save this, then it's saved as a draft and I could assign it later. But let's say we do assign this assignment. So now that we've assigned this into this classroom, if we go into Adam's area, can see that this has been assigned. So Adam might view that assignment. Adam could download a copy of the document, which then has the assignment question in it, let's say. Once he wants to upload, well, could also check the rubric, sorry, on the right-hand side. So now, could imagine, does some work, wants to upload the work from his computer. So there we go, let's upload this piece of work. And then in the top right corner, going to turn that in. Get a little animation letting you know you've done something. So I guess if you turn in work, you can reward yourself with pizza. But anyway, if I now go back to being the teacher, if I go up into assignments, can see that Adam has handed this in. Could then open the assignment and I could return it to Adam and he could then send it back to me and we could keep that back and forth going. But once I'm happy with it, you know, I might say, okay, let's click on the rubric. Great attempt. Let's pick that option here. We're going to add some feedback as well. So, you know, well done. Great effort. key points discussed and all of that stuff. You can see that's saved. And then very simply, I just click onto return as the teacher. If I now go back to being Adam, let's Adam know work has been returned. So Adam can now check the rubric, see the score, see the feedback. And as the teacher, I can go up to grades at the very top, and I can see within grades, you know, what Adam's grade was. If I wanted to reopen the work, I click on the three dots, open student work. Great way to get access to that as well. For all of you that are really into Excel, you can export to Excel in the top right corner too. All right, so I think that kind of brings us to the end of the webinar, actually. So this has been a very sort of simple scratching the surface of Teams for Education. I really hope that this webinar is something that you'd enjoy. Like I was saying earlier, if you are interested in more bespoke training for your organization, then do get in touch with us. We will send you an email with, you know, a quick survey about this webinar, and also a link to get a video to watch a video recording of this again. But also, please do get back in touch with us if you feel that your school could benefit with some bespoke training. Like I was saying earlier, we explore more avenues of Teams for Education, but we also explore other Office 365 apps and how they incorporate into Teams, because there's a lot more that goes into this than just Teams for Education. Lots of other apps. There's many other ways to do some of the things that we've explored today. It is a pretty cool application, and we're all about helping you find and learn and master the best approach for you and what you're doing. So just going to now take questions and answers. But other than that, I mean, thank you very, very, very much for coming today. Really hope that everyone has found something beneficial from this session. Do have a lovely weekend, and you know, especially now more than ever, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and I wish you all the best. So I'm just going to go through questions, which it doesn't look like there's any of at the moment. So if anyone does have any questions, please put them in. If not, have a wonderful day. So just going through the questions quickly. So you're all very welcome. Like, thank you for the nice comments. Glad that you enjoyed the session. So I've got a question about, can you print off work that has been submitted? So where all the work is saved to a SharePoint library, then there is a physical copy of it that you can download and print off. So yes. Can a teacher use a class note for every student individually during the class? Yes, you can. So like I was showing you with the class notebook, because I only had the one student, I only had access to the one student's one student notebook. But yes, as a teacher, if I had 30 students in that class, I would also have 30 separate notebooks that I could click into. So breakout rooms, there's no dedicated breakout rooms feature at the moment. That is something that Microsoft are looking to upload. Sorry, that is something that Microsoft are looking to add. They said in the final quarter of 2020, which is now really, isn't it? So I would say keep your eyes peeled on that one. There is a workaround that involves you creating lots and lots of separate meeting rooms, but that's really all that is. It's just a bit of a workaround. So at the moment, as far as I'm aware, no dedicated feature for it, but it's something that is coming very, very, very soon, and I'd imagine you'll have it shortly. Got a question about can Class Notebook distribute work to multiple classes? It depends how you set up your classroom teams, because in a way, no, it's every classroom has its own notebook, but you can, when you do create a notebook for a class, you can use an existing notebook as a template and all the content from it can follow. So you would still have to technically do it separately. So they're not all linked, unfortunately, no. And got a question about, can you upload audio files? Yep, you can. So in the same way, when I uploaded, I used PowerPoint as an example in this course, but it could have just as easily been a video, an MP3, an MP4. It could be anything. You can upload pictures. You can upload anything, any recognized file. It's fine. It should be all good. Got a question. Why can't I get Teams on Mac Safari? Yeah, you should be able to. So through Safari, if you go to office.com, then you should be able to log in. And then once you've logged into your Office account, then you'll be able to get it from there. So you can access it directly through the browser. And also, when you log into your if you log into office.com and then you go through your school's login page and you're logged in as yourself, you'll have an option on the right hand side to download it to your computer. Be worth having a word with your IT department as well. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to access it on a Mac. So I got a question about adding someone to a meeting if they've missed the initial request. Yeah, so just within the meeting itself, like directly within the meeting, in the top right corner, you've got a button for add participants, and you can add people into that. Alternatively, if it's a meeting invite, let's say I've set up a meeting for Tuesday, and then on Monday I realize, oh, I forgot to invite Jane to the meeting, then you can go back into the calendar, back into that meeting, so just double click to open it, and then if you go up to add attendees, you can add another person and send them the meeting invite. So yeah, you can add people whenever you want, either within the meeting itself, or alternatively, just go back into the calendar invite and do it that way. Oh, and for everyone else posting nice comments, thank you very, very much. Really, really, really appreciate it. Unfortunately, there's only so much depth you can go into in a short webinar, but fingers crossed this has all helped everyone get a bit more out of Teams for Education. It's a really good application, really, really cool. Personally, I prefer it to the business teams. I think it's better. Because if you can imagine, with business teams, all people do is just create hundreds of teams. They invite themselves to them. You've got a lot more freedom because obviously students can't do what teachers do on the Teams network, but in the business world, normally everyone can do anything. And using it live for meetings and files is great, but other than that, it's just lots and lots and lots and lots of teams and chats. So this is pretty cool. You got a whole kind of logical process behind it. All right, well, if there's no more questions, then thank you very, very, very much from me. Have the loveliest of weekends, and you'll be hearing from us very soon. So thank you very, very much.